We heard this morning about the unfortunate passing of Shyam Prabhu, who was a resident of Vrindavan. I had not known him until the Govardhan retreat last year. And he came several times to our evening program. So we're very saddened to hear that news. But at any moment, any of us can be taken away with no notice. And that makes it all the more urgent that we take this philosophy of Krishna consciousness very seriously. Tragedy can strike at any moment. In my own experience, those tragic times have been very few by Krishna's grace. But I remember one time I was going to Mayapur. It was very difficult to get there, more difficult in the early days. And I met one devotee on the way, and he kindly invited me to share his room with him. So we arrived at the Lotus building. That was the only residence at that time. I think it was 1975, maybe. And we got to his room. We were totally exhausted, so I sat down on the bed, and the whole bed collapsed. And one of the boards smashed my big toe. I was in great agony. And then soon after that, Srila Prabhupada was there at the time. Soon after, we went into his room. And when I entered his room, he made the statement, he said, actually there is no safe place in this material world. Right on cue. And I was thinking, Mayapur Dham, if we just get to Mayapur Dham, the suffering will end. Anyway, this is the nature of this material world, that tragedy can happen at any moment. And when actually we get notice of our impending passing, just like Maharaj Parikshit got notice of his impending death, then we can take advantage of that. And as he did, forget everything else, eating, sleeping, everything, and sit down and hear Krishna Katha. And actually there's many instances of that happening in our devotees in ISKCON, where they have had notice, and then they know what to do. People without this knowledge, they don't know what to do. I remember in my father's passing, the whole family was there, my brother, my sister, my stepmother. And I would, as much as I could, I would sit by my father's side. He was in coma at home. And I would read to him or chant. And when the other members of the family would come into his presence, they would stand there for a few minutes and looking very sad. Of course, it was a sad time. That's natural. But they really didn't know what to do. I could see that. And at one point, my father came out of his coma, and he looked around and he said, "Where is John?" That's me. So I could understand he appreciated what was happening, what I was doing. And then he went back into coma and later passed on. But devotees know what to do at the time of death. And even if it is a very brief notice, still our minds can be fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. There's one story of Jayapataka Swami flying in an airplane, and the airplane started to shake violently. I mean, really violently. And people were screaming, and some people were crying out to God. And Jayapataka Swami sat there, and he put his hand in his bead bag and started chanting very loudly. And so that was his response to that emergency situation. Then after the emergency was over, one passenger next to him, he said, now I know what to do now by your example. Next time. So actually we have so much to offer and to others. We don't know how fortunate we are, actually. I think I mentioned this before. Prabhupada was sitting on his porch in Denver, Colorado. He looked out at all of us and he said, you are all very fortunate. Now don't become unfortunate. So that is always a possibility to stray from the path of Krishna consciousness. We've seen examples, but it is actually not very successful. It may be successful, we think, in the short term to try to forget Krishna. One devotee tried to do that. Prabhupada said it's actually not possible to forget Krishna. Once we've tasted a little bit of Krishna consciousness, the nectar of Krishna consciousness, it is not possible to give it up. So you are very fortunate here in India. You have that culture, you have that background. Prabhupada would always say that the Indian people are very fortunate. And sometimes in our early years we could not understand that because we come to India and it'd be very difficult and not so clean in some ways. But you have the culture, and that's the main. That's your opulence. That you've been brought up knowing about Krishna. So you're all very fortunate. Thank you very much for taking to the path of Krishna consciousness and sticking with it year after year after year. So I'm going to stop speaking. And if you do have any questions about our filmmaking, Vishaka Devi, my wife, and I have been making films on ISKCON for the Hare Krishna movement and its philosophy since 1973. And if you have any questions, Hare Krishna. Yes. Microphone.
Hare Krishna. Since you have spent so much time with Prabhupada, sometimes it is difficult. It is more easy to associate and believe in a person like Prabhupada because we know that he was here some time back. But it's not as easy, to relate the same way with Krishna, even though he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So sometimes we feel it's easier to put faith in Prabhupada. Because, he was a person and he was here. Not that Krishna is not a person, but it's more difficult to relate with Krishna than to relate with Prabhupada. So how does one understand that?
I'm sorry, you said it's more difficult to what?
It's easier to relate with Prabhupada.
Relate, okay.
Than to relate with, Krishna.
It's easier to relate with Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So what is the question?
So the question is that, is that a correct, approach and understanding?
I thought you said it's easier to relate with Krishna first.
No, it's easier to relate, at least for me.
Easier to relate with Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, that's right.
That's natural, because Prabhupada was here in our presence quite recently. And we have films of him. He's the real thing. And if you watch our DVD series, you can get a very good idea of Prabhupada, many aspects of his personality. And so that's natural to more easily relate with Prabhupada. And we should try to approach the spiritual master first, and not try to jump directly to Krishna. So the idea is to please the spiritual master first. and go through the disciplic succession. Krishna has arranged the disciplic succession in such a way that we have access to it at all times. We may not have access to Krishna himself. Most of us don't. But we have very, very close access to the devotees and the great acharyas. So that is the first thing. In New Vrindavan there is one temple being built, and then later that temple was turned into a memorial for Srila Prabhupada called the Palace of Gold. And when Prabhupada was told that, they had changed it to a residence for himself, or a place for himself when he came. He said that is proper. And also in Mayapur, the first major structure was the guest house. So Prabhupada was thinking of his devotees. And he was criticized for that. When they came, they would have a place to stay. He was criticized for that. Why didn't you make a temple first? But Prabhupada said, I want a place for my devotees so they can be comfortable. So we have direct access and association to the devotees, so we should try to serve them first. And actually Krishna is more pleased by that, we know. Is that all right?
Thank you.
Very good. Yes?
Maharaj, what are the recent activities we want to know in that field video?
What are the what?
What are the recent activities that are being done on that in your area? Filmmaking.
We've taken up a project to make a new film on Prabhupada's life. The last one we produced was called Your Ever Well-Wisher, and that was 30 years ago. I was quite shocked to realize that. Somebody said it's been 30 years. So we're happy to make that announcement that we're taking up a project to produce a film on Srila Prabhupada's life, and our intention is to make it for the public. The public actually doesn't know much about Srila Prabhupada. When I asked him in 1974, can I make a film on your life? Prabhupada said, what is the need? In his humility. So Prabhupada never put himself forward. He always gave credit to his spiritual master. In that famous interview, the first interview in the Matchless Gifts film in 1966, Prabhupada was giving credit to the boys. The boys have done everything. So Prabhupada is as opposed to other spiritual movements, we know many movements by the name of the leader. So when Prabhupada said that, it is not necessary, or he said, what is the need? I replied that people in the future will want to know who started the Hare Krishna movement. Naturally. So then he thought about it and he said, okay, you can do. So that was 1983. We released that. Now it's 2013. So please give us your blessings for this project. Actually, in Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj gives a story. He was in Prabhupada's room in Mayapur, filled with devotees. And Prabhupada asked all the devotees to give Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj their blessings. He was going to Eastern Europe to preach. So one devotee said, why does he need our blessings, Srila Prabhupada? He has your blessings. Prabhupada said, no, he needs the blessings of all the Vaishnavas. So, therefore I'm asking your blessings. Another question?
Many years, but was there any time like Prabhupada was not happy with you and he was heavy on you, or rather he chastised you?
Yes. Question is, I saw Prabhupada many times, was with him many times. Was there any time that he chastised you? That was a favorite story. I probably told this before. It seems like I've told this over and over, but I'll tell it again. We were on a morning walk in Denver, 1975, and the subject of diets came up. Because at that time, many devotees were on diets, thinking they could improve their health and improve their service. But actually it was more of a distraction than a help. Devotees got too absorbed in the diet rather than the service. So we were on a morning walk, and Tamal Krishna Goswami started talking about this in a general way, and then he said, Prabhupada, we should die eating prasad. And Prabhupada said, yes, we should die eating prasad. And then I had tried a diet unsuccessfully. So I piped up in the back. I was kind of in the back of the group. I said, yes, Prabhupada, these diets are useless. So Prabhupada stopped and he turned around and he looked straight at me. And he said, the diet is useless or you are useless. And I completely froze. I had nothing to say. Of course, useless, correct. Because, why? It was a very interesting answer. We concoct the diet ourselves. We embrace the diet. We may make it up. We may take it from somewhere else. But we embrace it. So that's our foolishness if we become too absorbed in that or whatever. I'm not saying that fasting and diets are not good. But sometimes we can go overboard. We can become a little fanatical, as is the tendency with neophytes. So that was a welcome chastisement. Yes. Dwarkadish Prabhu.
You have seen so many footages of Prabhupada. In fact, you have made hours and hours of these beautiful DVDs. So in your having seen this personally and having seen him through the footages on the screen, which aspect of Prabhupada seems to strike most in your heart as being the most glorious aspect of Prabhupada in your visual impressions about him?
In my impressions?
Yeah, in your visual impression, when you see that, we're seeing so many, his movements we have seen, physical movements.
I was thinking you were talking about qualities, and I was going to say compassion is his most wonderful quality. Because without that, he may have not come to the West if he was, very satisfied living in Vrindavan. But Prabhupada's visually, just the way, I think, the way he drank water was so beautiful. Yeah. We have at least one shot of that in Los Angeles. He was just regal. He had a regal bearing. Aristocratic regal bearing. Which was very, very beautiful. And the way he walked also. I remember many morning walks on Juhu Beach. Actually, it was very, very difficult to keep up with Srila Prabhupada. He had so much energy. He was over 70. We were, teenagers in our early 20s. It was hard to keep up with him. So many qualities and traits that he had. All the 26 qualities of a pure devotee he had in full. And it's interesting, there's that one verse that a person has no good qualities if he's not a devotee. What is that verse? Anyone can quote that? Yeah. So that, for a long time, that was a hard verse for me to understand. No good qualities unless one's a devotee. But actually, those qualities may be manifest in some persons who are not a devotee. But oftentimes they come from conditioning. We're taught to be gentle. We're taught to be polite. We're taught to be so many things in our upbringing. I remember in the 50s, when I was growing up, my grandfather was very strict. He was an Episcopalian minister. He actually was a missionary in China. My father was born in China. But he was always very strict, and so we learned some, rules and how to act and be polite and all that. But that's from conditioning, and that can change very quickly by the influence of the modes of material nature. But a pure devotee, has those innate qualities naturally manifest from the soul. And those are permanent. Those are fixed. They're not changed by any material conditioning or by the modes of material nature. So that's a big difference between those qualities. Hare Krishna. I think you're going to have to, I have no glasses, you'll have to speak it. Microphone?
Hare Krishna. The question is, how to remember consistent behavior of devotees than to get impulsive for one inconsistent behavior?
Please read that again.
How to remember consistent behavior of devotee than to get impulsive for one inconsistent behavior?
I'll try to interpret that as best I can. The question, as I understand it, is that sometimes we act impulsively, and sometimes that may not be proper action for a devotee. So how to always act properly? That's very often very difficult. I think Maharaj was discussing that point the other day in one of his lectures. That sometimes we act very impulsively and quickly. We don't meditate on the proper thing to do. There's no time. Maharaj was speaking. So therefore we should always be very careful what we say. We may think in our mind immediately, and we may impulsively come up with something that may be improper. So actually the worst thing is we may come up in our mind with that idea, but worse is to speak it. We should be very, very careful with our words. Words can be very devastating if they're improperly spoken. So better to remain silent if there's some chaotic situation that's going on. Hare Krishna. And meditate on our spiritual master, what he might do in that situation, and try to control our tongue. Is that okay? Who asked the question, please? Okay. You coming, Maharaj? Anything else? Yes? Microphone?
Hare Krishna. Pardon me if I ask the question inappropriately. Please explain me about the Ras Leela. What was the purpose behind it, and why it was done? What is the purpose behind it?
Actually, thank you, Hare Krishna. That is very deep subject matter. And I am not so qualified to speak on that. I remember one man asked Srila Prabhupada to speak on Ras Leela in South India. And Prabhupada said, actually, I'm not qualified to speak on Ras Leela. But Srila Prabhupada has given extensive commentary and spoken about Ras Leela in his 10th canto of Krishna book. So I suggest that you secure a copy of the Krishna book and you read that section. Do you know Krishna book? Have you heard of? So it's in the final chapters. And Prabhupada he's very careful to give proper understanding of that pastime of the Lord. And that actually comes in the 10th canto, at the very end of the Bhagavatam. And by that time we should have digested everything previous to that for proper understanding of Ras Leela. So if you can read that section, actually if you could begin at the beginning of Krishna book, that is best. Hare Krishna.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatharine Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya evacha Patitanam bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna. Thank you, Yadubar Prabhu. You spoke about Ras Leela with very high, great authority and conviction. Thank you. It is. He gave the perfect answer by his example, because unless one is completely humble and feel oneself completely unqualified, one has no qualification for this subject. So you taught us very nicely. Thank you. Rupa Goswami explains how Krishna consciousness is to have complete faith that Krishna will always protect us. And what does it mean for Krishna to protect us? That is a very, very deep subject. Because we are not this body. We are the eternal souls. And when we turn to Krishna, when we surrender to Krishna, Krishna will always respond. How Krishna responds to the love of his devotees is the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Lord Chaitanya, who took the role of a devotee, taught us in a practical way how to live the Srimad Bhagavatam. We read about Dhruva and Prahlad and Pandavas. We read about the residents of Vrindavan, the gopis and gopas. Now, how to apply those principles to our life. Radha bhava duti subalitam nomi Krishna swarupam. Krishna came with the love of Sri Radha in his heart and her complexion as well. But he came in the role of a devotee to teach us how to actually live following in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan in our very lives. At the Rath Yatra in Puri, before revealing to the world these inner secrets, he folded his palms before Jagannath and offered several prayers. Among them, Naham Vipro Nachar Narapati Napi Vaishyo Nasudro. That I'm not a Brahman or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Shudra. I'm not a Brahmachari, a Sannyasi, a Grihasta or Vanaprastha. My aspiration, my identity, my true identity is Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayora Das Das Anudas. That I am the servant of the servant of the servant of your servants, my Lord, Lord of Gopis. So this is the principle, which is the basic foundation by which all true realizations of bhakti manifest. There is imaginary realizations. You see, we can understand the truth philosophically. We can know what is Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. We can know what is Jiva Tattva. What is Bhakti Tattva? What is Krishna Tattva? What is Radha Tattva? What is Rasa Tattva? What are these inner truths? But to understand any of them, our realizations have to be built on this foundation. The foundation of Gopi Bharatur Padakamaliyora Das 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 Anudas. Feeling oneself the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. Not feeling oneself qualified, but feeling oneself unqualified. Because when we feel ourselves unqualified, then we are able to, from the heart, call out for Krishna's grace. The personification of Krishna's grace is Sri Radha. And that grace manifests in our lives in so many ways if we are receptive. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sometimes he manifested himself as the Supreme Lord and sometimes as a devotee. In Navadvip, so many knew that he was Krishna. They wanted to love him and worship him as Krishna. But if anyone would say anything of that sort to him, he would block his ears with his hands and cry out very loudly, "Vishnu, Vishnu, do not contaminate my mind by saying this. No one can be Krishna. We are all his eternal servants." Sometimes if someone called him Krishna, he would jump in the Ganges river to purify himself from such an exaggeration, from such a misconception. And on rare occasions he would sit. If you offered him the throne of Vishnu, he would not accept. But at other times, just for the purpose of fulfilling the inner desires of his most confidential, elevated devotees, at the house of Srivas, he would sit on Krishna's throne and accept abhishek, accept anakuta offerings, and give blessings. Even reveal himself. Here on this particular wall behind us, we see how Lord Chaitanya revealed his form of Krishna Balaram to Kolavecha Sridhar. He revealed his form of Lord Ram to Murari Gupta. At other times he revealed his forms of Radha, Gopinath to Ramananda Rai. He revealed his forearm form of Vishnu to Jagai and Madhai when they totally humbled themselves, feeling themselves most unqualified to take shelter. When Lord Chaitanya went to Vrindavan, it is described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, he came to a village, Aritagram. And there, it is a very famous place. It's a small village, tiny village. And that's where Krishna killed the demon Aristasura, who was sent by Kamsa to kill Krishna. While he was there, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew, according to scripture, that Radha Kund and Shama Kund, the holiest places in all of Vrindavan, were there, close to Aritagram. Because after Krishna liberated that gigantic, monstrous, demoniac bull, Aristasura, the beautiful pastime of the appearance of Radha Kund took place. Just in that spot. So Lord Chaitanya was asking all the villagers, where is Radha Kund? Where is Shama Kund? But nobody knew anything about it. Many of them knew about Radha Kund, Shama Kund. It is in the Puranas. It's glorified as the holiest of all holy places in the universe. But no one had a clue where it was. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood that it is close to here. So although in the mood of a devotee, he manifested his omniscient quality as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to find Radha Kund and Shama Kund, for the benefit of all people for all time. And he happened to see what just looked like an ordinary paddy field. In those days, Vrindavan was mostly paddy fields. They would grow wheat, they would grow mustard, they would grow bajra, they would grow different kinds of vegetables, flowers. Even when we went there in 1971, Vrindavan, surrounding the little village of Vrindavan with so many pasture grounds and agricultural fields. Today it's becoming very urbanized. But can we imagine what it was like 500 years ago? Before the 6 Goswamis even came, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there. So there were no major temples except the Adi Keshava temple in Mathura, Krishna's birthplace. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just saw one of the thousands and thousands and thousands of paddy fields in Braj Bhumi in those days. And he looked out and saw in one paddy field there were 2 little ponds of water. Just water in the field. There was not much water in the ponds either. Very small. And he understood this is Shama Kund and Radha Kund. And along with his assistant Balabhadra Bhattacharya, he took his bath. And as he offered his obeisances in ecstasy and offered prayers. Now to the people who were watching, this beautiful, beautiful sannyasi with golden complexion, he has come and he's offering prayers to these 2 little, they were hardly even ponds of water in a field. That just as Srimati Radharani is most dear to Krishna, her lake, Radha Kund, is equally dear to Krishna. Why? Because this lake of Radha Kund is so dear to Srimati Radharani. Because it is her favorite place. Because it is here that she gives the greatest pleasure to Krishna. That's why it is her favorite place. And because it is so dear to her, that is why it is so dear to Krishna. This is the nature of bhakti. It is Radharani's favorite place because it is there that she gives the greatest pleasure to Krishna. And it is most dear to Krishna because it is so dear to Srimati Radharani. And because it is so dear to Srimati Radharani, Krishna gives Radharani's love to anyone who with faith and devotion takes their bath there. He was chanting these beautiful prayers. And then he took his bath in great ecstasy. And then performing kirtan, he was dancing around Sri Radha Kund and Shama Kund. Then he and Balabhadra Bhattacharya collected mud. To everyone it just looked like a pond in a field, and they were collecting mud with tears pouring from their eyes in ecstasy. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put tilak in 12 places on his body with that mud, and then brought it with him. That is how Radha Kund and Sham Kund were revealed to the world. From there, he went to Sumana Sarovar, also known as Kusum Sarovar. A place where Narada Muni received the body of a gopi, Naradiya gopi, in order to understand Krishna's Vrindavan Leela. And after that he wrote his Narada Bhakti Sutras, close to, at Narada Kund, just close to Kusum Sarovar. That is also the place where every day around noontime Srimati Radharani would collect flowers to bring to Radha Kund to offer to Krishna. It was there that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the Kusum Sarovar, he first saw Govardhan Hill. Upon seeing Giriraj, the king of all mountains, he ran over to a large rock, and knowing that every single stone of Govardhan Hill is non-different than the very body of Krishna. Not only is it non-different than the body of Krishna, it is the body of Krishna. He embraced the stone in great love and cried and cried and cried. Then he went to the temple of Hadidev. One day the gopis and Sri Radha were in separation from Krishna. And they started crying out, Hadidev, Hadidev, Hadidev. And Krishna appeared right on that spot, near Govardhan Hill, in the town of Govardhan. And he manifested his form. Later, his great-grandson, Vajranabh, in that very place where he appeared to the gopis, established the deity of Haridev. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he danced and chanted. And all the people of the area came and in great wonder to see his dancing. And they chanted along with him. While he was at Govardhan, he was thinking in his heart of hearts how he wanted to have the darshan, to see and to serve Gopal. Gopal is famous today as Srinathji. So much he was yearning to see Srinathji. His Param Guru Madhavendra Puri performed such incredible, intimate, lovely leelas with Srinathji. But at the same time, Srinathji was in a temple on top of Govardhan Hill. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of a devotee, knew that Govardhan is the body of Krishna. Govardhan is Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he personally recited that wonderful verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, spoken by the gopis, that of all the devotees of Krishna, Govardhan is the best. Haridas Bharya. Because he knows most intimately how to give pleasure to Krishna and Balaram. How? By serving not only Krishna Balaram, but all of their friends, the gopas, the gopis, the calves, the cows. Because Govardhan is providing wonderful lakes and streams and waterfalls of nectarine water to drink. And providing very soft grass. Soft grass that when the gopas or the gopis are playing, it's very pleasing to their feet. And when the cows and the calves and the bulls eat that grass, it's very soft and very sweet and very nutritious and very delicious. And that grass has a mystical quality that when the cows eat it, it transforms into the most delicious milk. And she provides caves to keep cool and beautiful stones. All the stones are warm in the winter and cool in the summer. And they become completely soft to anyone who steps on it. And there are so many trees which are like the hairs of Govardhan in ecstasy. And they provide unlimited fruits. So many fruits. On Govardhan Hill, when Krishna and the Gopas and Gopis are there, all the fruits throughout the year are fully ripened. And wonderful vegetables. So this is Sri Radha and Gopis speaking. Govardhan Hill is the greatest devotees because Govardhan Hill knows how to please the Lord's devotees. As Yadubar Prabhu was explaining, to try to understand Krishna is difficult. But Krishna makes himself understandable through devotees. When devotees saw how Srila Prabhupada loved Krishna, devotees had faith in Krishna. This was even before Krishna book came out. Even before the Bhagavad Gita came out in English. The only thing we knew about the early devotees, the only thing they knew about Krishna is that Prabhupada loves him. And just by seeing Prabhupada's love for Krishna and the compassion that love inspired toward them, they developed such faith in Krishna that they left their homes, they left all of their pleasures. They started following no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating. Now in India you may think, well, so what? But in the West, there's one lecture, Srila Prabhupada said, and when people hear no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating, so many knows the demons, they will die. And he quoted one British Lord, Lord Jetland. He told one of Prabhupada's godbrothers who was in London that you are asking us. He said, can you make me a Brahmin? And he said, yes, you just follow these 4 regulative principles. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating. He said, how will I live? To ask somebody in the West like that, it's almost like saying you're not allowed to drink water, you're not allowed to go to sleep, you're not allowed to eat for the rest of your life. It's just such a part of life. But devotees instantly were willing to do that. And they didn't risk their lives. And all they knew about Krishna was that Prabhupada loves. And when Prabhupada talked about Krishna, it was with so much love. So Krishna very much reveals through the devotees. And when Madbhakta Pujavyadika, Krishna tells that if you want to please me, please my devotees. Worship of my devotees is more endearing to me than worshipping me. And it is for this reason Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught this principle of being the servant of the servant of the servant. Because it is the most effective way of serving and pleasing Radha Gopinath. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was teaching us how to be a devotee. And he would not put his foot on a single stone of Govardhan Hill, because Govardhan Hill was none different than Krishna. So Gopal, his beloved Lord, the Lord of his Guru, the Lord of his Param Guru, one of the most important of all the forms of Krishna, manifestations of Krishna in all of creations, Gopal, Srinathji, was so close. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after he took sannyas on his way to Puri, when he stopped in Remuna, he told all of his devotees the story of Gopal and Gopal's connection with Kirchur Gopinath. And as he told that story, so much of ecstasy he was in. Now in those days, people really appreciated going places because they had to walk. You see, to go from Puri to Vrindavan, now, you get a bus or a car to Bhubaneswar, and then you take an airplane to Delhi, and then you drive to Vrindavan, and you think, oh, how much austerity I had to go through. But in those days, there was only one way to Vrindavan, to walk. Probably 1,000 kilometers. So it's a very special and rare thing. For Lord Chaitanya, it was the only time in his life he went. So he was so close. He was right at Govardhan. And he yearned to see Gopal. But still, in this mood of being the servant of the servant of the servant, he would not risk going by committing an offense. Now, there are different ways of looking at committing offense. One is, if I commit an offense, then I will have to suffer. That's a very low level. But there are many much lower levels, so at least we should go to that low level. But on a higher level, it's not about whether we suffer or not. It displeases Krishna when we make an offense. It's not properly expressing our love for Krishna when we make an offense. There's that story of Govinda, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing and dancing and dancing in Jagannath's temple for so many hours and hours and hours with his devotees. And he wouldn't stop dancing. The kirtan went on from early morning till afternoon. And finally Nityananda Prabhu got the kirtan leaders to stop and said, please, everybody's tired, everyone's hungry, please stop. So then Lord Chaitanya stopped. Oh, okay. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he went to his room after taking prasad and then laid down. And after he took prasad, Govinda would always massage his legs. That was the tradition. Govinda was his personal assistant. So on this day, Lord Chaitanya was laying across the doorway, and his feet were inside. So Govinda couldn't get in. He said, "My Lord, please, if you can slightly move so I can get in, so I can massage your legs." And Lord Chaitanya, in the role of his devotee, he said, "I am too tired, I cannot move." So he was dancing all day. So Govinda didn't know what to do. He said, please, just move slightly. I'll move you slightly just so I could get in to massage your legs. I need to massage your legs." And he said, "I cannot move." A few minutes passed. He said, "My Lord, please just slightly move your legs. Just move a little. I can get in." And the Lord became abrupt. He said, "Do it or don't do it. Whatever is in your mind, I cannot move." Then he went to sleep. So what did Govinda do? He put a piece of Lord Chaitanya's outer cloth over Lord Chaitanya's body, and then he stepped over his body to go in the room and massaged his legs. How many of you would be willing to step over Lord Chaitanya's body? Hare Krishna. About a half hour later, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awoke, and Govinda was still there massaging his legs. Lord Chaitanya said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I'm massaging your legs." He said, "But it is the custom that after you massage my legs, you go and you honor prasad. Have you taken prasad yet?" "You couldn't have taken prasad if you're still here." He said, "Why didn't you go to take prasad?" Govinda didn't say anything. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami tells us what was in his mind. He didn't say a word. He was silent when Lord Chaitanya asked him that question. But what he was thinking is, to please you and serve you, my Lord, I'm willing to endure the reactions for unlimited offenses. But for my own purpose, I am deeply fearful of even committing the slightest tinge of an offense to anyone. So in this sense, for the service of Krishna, one doesn't mind suffering. Srila Prabhupada went on Jaladuta when he was 70 years old. 69, he turned 70 near Cochin in the Arabian Sea. All those heart attacks and seasickness. But he was willing to suffer anything to serve and please his Guru and Krishna. So you see, on the higher level of bhakti, we don't commit offenses because it's worse than suffering. It's worse than death itself to displease Krishna by offending those he loves. Krishna told Ambarish, he told Durvas Muni, after he offended Ambarish Maharaj, he said, because I'm in the heart of my devotee, if you offend my devotee, you are offending me. But I take it even more seriously. Narottam Das Thakur prays that in one wonderful song, that if one offends Krishna, one can rectify it by chanting his holy names. But if one offends Krishna's devotees, it's very difficult, because of how Krishna loves his devotee. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not step on Govardhan. What a dynamic that was going on at this time. He yearned so much to see Gopal, and now he's so close. He could see the temple right on the hill. But he wouldn't go. He bathed in Manasi Ganga, and then he walked to Govinda Kund, and he bathed in Govinda Kund. And that's where the intensity of his desire to see Gopal was so strong. Because it's near a place called Anakuta Kshetra. The temple of Srinathji was just near there, where 5,000 years ago Krishna actually manifested a gigantic form to the Brajbasis and spoke. He said, I am Govardhan Hill. He manifested the body of Govardhan Hill. And it was there that on Krishna's instruction, Nanda Maharaj inspired all the Brajbasis to make the Anakuta. Mountains and mountains and kunds of bhoga. And Krishna ate it all. And there was nothing there. Govardhan Hill ate it all. And then he manifested it again as Mahaprasad. And everyone really knew that this was Mahaprasad. At Govinda Kund, Indra, along with Surabhi, bathed Krishna. Indra with Airavata brought the water from the Akash Ganga, the Ganga of the heavenly worlds, to bathe Krishna. And Surabhi bathed Krishna with the milk from her own motherly love. And that famous place of Govinda Kund, while Lord Chaitanya was bathing there, he felt this very, very deep yearning to see Gopal. But still there was no question of stepping on the hill. But Gopal knew his heart. And here is an example of Krishna's loving reciprocation with his devotee. Gopal made a plan because he was yearning to see Lord Chaitanya as much as Lord Chaitanya was yearning to see Krishna. This is the esoteric meaning of ye yatamam prapadyante. Krishna says, as you surrender unto me, I reveal myself. Krishna reciprocates according to the nature of our love, the nature of our surrender. And this is on the level of bhava, or love. Because to the degree we yearn to see Krishna with real bhakti, Krishna yearns to see us. When we yearn to please Krishna, Krishna yearns to please us. He is Bhaktavatsal. So, a wonderful pastime took place right at that moment. This devotee, a Brijbasi, he comes to the village of Anakuta Kshetra, and says to the people there that an army of Turkish soldiers are coming here. They are going to attack and devastate everything. Every single person, along with the deity of Gopal, should leave this place immediately. They're coming tomorrow. So what was the first thing the villagers did? They secretly brought Gopal off the altar and secretly covered him up and took him away. And they all evacuated. There wasn't a single human being in the whole town or village of Anukuta Kshetra. And Lord Chaitanya heard the news that Gopal was being hidden in different places. They moved him around. Sometimes they hid him in bushes, sometimes in forests. And at that time, he was in a village called Gantuli. It's called Gantuli because one time Srila Prabhupada says it is hearsay that that's the first place Radha and Krishna met. What that means, I am only repeating. When Prabhupada said something is hearsay, it's very hearsay. It's something very special, very beautiful. And while they were hiding, they tied their clothes together. So it is called Gantuli. So Gopal was in the house of one Brijavasi. And nobody knew where he was. But Lord Chaitanya found out. So he went there. And there, Srinathji had the darshan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had the darshan of Srinathji. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Krishna in the mood of Sri Radha's love. He spent 3 to 4 days there, continuously, dancing and singing before Srinathji. And he offered a beautiful prayer. Lord Chaitanya, in his great ecstasy, when he first saw Srinathji, he prayed, may the left hand of Gopal always protect you. It was with that left hand that he lifted the entire Govardhan hill to protect his devotees. And with that spirit he danced and danced and danced. This Vipralamba and Sambhog, being so close but not able to see the Lord, put the Lord in such a deep, intense feeling of separation. And then seeing Gopal was the greatest happiness. About 4 days later, they found out there was never even any Turkish soldiers. They weren't anywhere around. Somebody said it, but they said it with such conviction. So they were carrying Gopal back to his home on top of Giriraj. And Lord Chaitanya, he was with Srinathji every possible moment he could. His eagerness, his devotion. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would say, do not try to see Krishna. Try to serve Krishna in such a way that Krishna is pleased to see you. And that was Lord Chaitanya's mood. He wasn't just going to see Gopal. He was going to serve Gopal. He was going to offer his body, his mind, his words, his very life to Gopal. That's what it really means to have darshan. Sometimes having darshan could be a very ritualistic thing. You know, I have seen. Like that. But actual darshan is to be seen. To present oneself to Krishna in such a way that Krishna is pleased to see us. When we are really, really happy to see Krishna in a spirit of surrender, then Krishna is pleased to see us. That is true darshan. So yes, Lord Chaitanya, he was surrendering his body, mind, his words, his life. He was offering it to Srinathji. And how did he do that? Through his prayer and through his kirtan. The whole time he was there, he was offering his prayers and he was chanting and dancing. He wasn't dancing and chanting just as some rule or regulation. He was chanting Krishna's name because he was offering his heart. He was offering his love when he was chanting. He was offering the very soul of his souls when he was dancing for the pleasure of Gopal. And he's teaching us. This is what darshan means. To come before the Lord with an eagerness to serve. And of all forms of service, to chant the holy names with great affection, humility, sincerity is the greatest way of pleasing Krishna. It's like Srila Prabhupada. When he was sitting in Tompkins Square Park or Washington Square Park or Hippie Hill in Golden Gate Park, wherever he was in those early days, when he would see all these hippies becoming happy because they were chanting Krishna's names, that made Prabhupada most happy. When he would see people chanting, when he would see people happy chanting the names and dancing, that gave him the greatest happiness. Because it was liberating our souls. It was connecting us to Radha Gopinath. So when we perform kirtan, we are doing so to please Krishna. And the more we have this consciousness, the more the holy name will reciprocate with us. And we will actually taste the nectar. And sometimes we may taste no nectar. It may taste bitter. We may not want to dance. We may not want to chant. And there's so many other things we'd rather do at this moment. But that's an optimum time to give pleasure to Krishna. Because at that moment we are choosing. Okay, it's not giving me happiness. But it gives me happiness to make you happy, Krishna. Even if I'm not happy, it makes me happy to give you happiness because I'm your servant. That is love. So as they were carrying Srinathji back, Lord Chaitanya was still dancing in front of him and chanting until they came to where they climbed the hill. And then he stopped. And Gopal went to the top of the hill. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his dandavats. Did the parikrama. And Kaviraj Goswami tells us that years later, when Rupa Goswami was very old, it appears that Sanatana Goswami had already disappeared from this world. Rupa Goswami so much longed to see Gopal. He had been living in Braj Bhumi for so many decades. But he never saw Srinathji. Even though he knew Lord Chaitanya yearned, and he yearned. And what an important avatar of the Lord was Srinathji, the Purna avatar. He descended from the spiritual world in this form. But Rupa Goswami would not put his foot on Govardhan Hill. What was the nature of his love? He lived in Vrindavan for like 40 or 50 years. And Srinathji is so close. But he never went on the hill. He would do so many Govardhan parikramas. Sometimes he has a bhajan kutir at Radha Kund, so close. But Gopal wanted to satisfy him in his old age. And Rupa Goswami, none of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas would go on the hill. So someone came to Anukut Kshetra and said, Turkish soldiers are coming. And please understand that it wasn't like the devotees sent somebody to do that. Because they would never, ever, ever want to disturb Gopal and have him have to come off his beautiful altar from his beautiful temple and come down the hill and be put into hiding. They would never, ever do something like that. But you see, these people who were coming were just common people who actually heard news like this. Where did they hear the news? Somehow or other, Gopal was spreading these rumors. Gopal was spreading false rumors just to please his devotees. So they brought Gopal down off the hill secretly and brought him to Mathura, where they kept him at the house of Vittaleshwar. He was the son of Sri Ballabhacharya. Ballabhacharya had two sons, Gopinath and Vittalnath. So Srinathji stayed at Vittalnath's house for 1 month. And it was very secret. But somehow or other that secret was disclosed to Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami gathered so many of the other devotees to go to offer their hearts and their lives, in other words, to have darshan of Gopal. And they stayed there for practically the whole month, having kirtan, kathas, prayers, making offerings along with Vittaleshwar. You see, in those days, the Vaishnavas, they were one family. And so many devotees went there with him. Rupa Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Lokanath Goswami, Bhugarbha Goswami, and many others. Interestingly, in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was going to all the Vaishnavas to get their blessings to write this book, Lokanath Goswami told him, I will give my blessings if you will not speak my name or talk about me. Now, Lokanath Goswami was one of the most prominent people. He's the guru of Narottam Das Thakur. He was actually, of all the Goswamis, he and Bhugarbha Goswami were the first to come to Vrindavan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally ordered Lokanath Goswami to go to Vrindavan before Rupa and Sanatan even came. Such a prominent devotee. there would have been chapters and chapters in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita about him. But he made promise, don't talk about me. But in this particular passage that we're speaking, where he gives a list of the names of the people, of the devotees who went to see Srinathji with Rupa Goswami, Lokanath Goswami's name is there. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami put his name in. He didn't say anything about him, he just put his name there. Hare Krishna. That makes me so happy. And there they were having a utsav for 1 month. So what was actually something very, very unfavorable became something completely favorable. Then a month passed, and they found out there's no Turkish soldiers. There's not anywhere around. So they brought Gopal back onto the mountain. Some years later, Janava Devi, the consort of Lord Nityananda, she came to Vrindavan. This was after Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya had already ended their earthly pastimes and returned to their eternal abodes in the spiritual sky. After the Keturi festival of Gaur Purnima, arranged by Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Shamananda Prabhu, Janava Devi took some of her associates to Vrindavan. A very, very historical visit. Rupa Goswami had already passed from this world. That means I'm supposed to end class. For those of you with cell phones, raise your hand if you happen somewhere in the world to have a cell phone. I'm just curious to see. Please raise your hands if you have a cell phone. Whoever didn't raise their hand probably do not understand English. But in class, when we hear a cell phone, we will interpret it as Krishna's way of telling us to end class. So one of two things: either turn your cell phones off, or if you're really tired, turn them on. So John, should I continue? Disregard the signal? When Janava Devi came to Vrindavan, Jiva Goswami and all, Lokanath Goswami, Bhugarbha Goswami, they were all there, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, to greet her. And she was told, actually Gopal Bhatta Goswami at that time was living in Sanket near Nandagram, and he came all the way to Vrindavan to meet her. And Raghava Pandit came all the way from Govardhan. Devotees were coming from all over Braj Bhumi just to honor Janava Devi. And they told her about Raghunath Das Goswami. Ever since Rupa Goswami left this world, Raghunath Das Goswami was in so much separation. We know the story, how he was the personal assistant of Swarup Damodar Goswami, who was the personal assistant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Raghunath Das Goswami was directly and indirectly the witness of practically all the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in Puri. Even when Lord Chaitanya was in Gambhira, with just Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar Goswami, he was getting all the Leela news from Swarup Damodar Goswami. Nobody else in creation knew. When they left, he went to Vrindavan with the idea of taking his life at Govardhan Hill. But Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they prayed to him, please stay with us and just tell us the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and make us happy. So he lived only for the pleasure of the devotees. And then Sanatana Goswami left. And Rupa Goswami left. What was the nature of these love between these devotees for each other? Raghunath Das Goswami is our Prayojan Guru. That means he's teaching us the highest, most intimate levels of ecstatic love for Krishna. He's manifesting to the world more than anyone the nature of the gopis' love. It's not that when Rupa Goswami left, Raghunath Das Goswami just said, oh, he's not his body. He's an eternal soul. Hare Krishna. He was feeling such separation. He practically stopped eating or drinking anything. He became emaciated and he was always crying. Because the body is the medium by which we can exchange love. And that body of Rupa Goswami was a medium by which Krishna's love was manifesting in this world unlimitedly. Raghunath Das Goswami knew that Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari, the most intimate, loving maidservant of Lalita Saki in the spiritual world of Goloka Vrindavan. But still, on this earthly level, he was feeling deep, deep separation. This is the love of the soul. The body is a medium, but the love is between the two souls, and there's a complete awareness of that. So they told Janavi about Raghunath Das Goswami's condition. She was so affected. She just came to Vrindavan. And she told the devotees, I want to go to see Raghunath Das Goswami. I must go to pacify him. They told her, he wanted so much to come and see you, but his physical health is so weak, he can't walk all this way. Then I will go to see him. The next day, she left for Govardhan. And as she was approaching, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ran to Raghunath Das Goswami and said, Janavi Devi's coming. She's just close to Radhakund. He was sitting in a little thatched hut, Bhajan Kutir, and he was chanting the holy names of Krishna very slowly, very deeply, crying in tears of separation from Krishna and his devotees. And when he heard that Janava was close by, he became transcendently blissful. And he stood up, and as fast as he could, he was walking toward Janava Devi. When Janava Devi saw Raghunath Das Goswami, how he was coming to meet her, her eyes flooded with tears. Her limbs trembled. And she went to Raghunath Das Goswami and bowed at his feet. And Narahari Chakravarti and Bhakti Ratnakar, he said, the words that they spoke to each other, Raghunath Das Goswami and Janava Devi, Ishwari, said, they were so deep They were so sweet. They were so intimate that they cannot be spoken. So that's all I could say. Because we don't know. He said, someday they will be revealed to the world. Jhanavi Devi, she cooked bhoga, she offered it to Krishna, and then she invited all the Brijavasis to come, and she personally served them all prasad. And she made everyone so happy. In this way, she spent a couple days at Radhakund, 2-3 days. And there's a beautiful story. One day she was sitting alone. She heard the sweetest, most heart-enchanting sound of a flute. And she looked in all 4 directions. Where is this beautiful, ambrosial, nectarine flute song coming from? But she didn't see anything anywhere, and she kept looking around. Then she saw on the banks of Radha Kund, Shamsundar, Gopinath. Gopinath standing in a beautiful threefold bending form. His complexion dark like the tamal tree, with a peacock adorning his hair. His dhoti golden like shining lightning. He had a beautiful smile upon his face as he played his flute, and he gazed upon Jhanavi Devi. And she saw in a circle around Krishna were the gopis, headed by Sri Radha, Sri Lalita, Sri Vishaka. Jhanavi Devi fell unconscious in ecstasy. In this way, she cooked. She served all the Brijavasis and all the devotees. And then she asked Raghunath Das Goswami's permission to see Govardhan Hill. This is interesting. Jhanavi Devi is the Acharya of the whole Gaudiya Sampradaya at the time. After Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda disappeared from this world, everyone unanimously accepted she's the senior most Acharya. She's Ananga Manjari, Srimati Radharani's younger sister in the spiritual world, and she's Nityananda's consort in this world. But yet, she was cooking, she was cleaning, and she was serving with great motherly love. She had no children of her own, but she considered everyone her child. She was like the mother of the universe. But even in such an exalted position, before going to Govardhan Hill, she asked for blessings. This is an example. Without blessings, what will we see? If we do not have blessings, we can't penetrate material energy. Even if we go to Vrindavan, even if we go to Govardhan, even if we go to do some incredible devotional service, to actually penetrate the material covering and actually enter into the real spiritual realm, blessings are required. And it's not just getting the blessing. It's the attitude in which we seek the blessings. that makes our heart receptive. Because Vrindavan is Krishna's abode forever. It's Nityadham. Krishna's performing his eternal pastimes in Vrindavan 24 hours a day. There's the prakata and aprakata. On the transcendental platform, Krishna's always performing his Leela in Vrindavan. But premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena, we have to have divine eyes to see it. And you can't make your eyes divine. Sometimes that verse from Brahma Samhita is, you have to have the mascara of prema on your eyes. But you can't go to, Pantaloons mall and buy prema mascara. They may sell something named prema mascara. You could probably find it somewhere in Mumbai. But you can't purchase that. It only comes by blessings. And it comes when our heart is really seeking blessings. When we feel ourselves unqualified without blessings. When we become beggars of blessings. And we're begging for the blessing to have the power to serve, to please the Vaishnavas, to please the Gurus, to please Krishna. That is the blessing we're asking for. So Janava Devi begged Raghunath Das Goswami for blessings to see Govardhan, and he gave the blessings. And then she went to Govardhan Hill. And she performed the beautiful parikrama and had the darshan. Manasi Ganga, Govinda Kund, Haridev, Apsara Kund, Navala Kund, Dana Nivartana Kund. Went to Punchari, Jatipuram, Uddhava Kund, Radha Kund, Shama Kund, Kusum Srovar, Sham Kutir, Gwala Pukar, all these different places. Then she returned to Vrindavan. And while in Vrindavan, she would go to the deities of the Goswamis, Radha Govinda, Radha Gopinath, Madan Mohan, Radha Vinod, and she would cook for them. Every day she would go to and she would cook a wonderful, wonderful feast and offer it to the deities. And then she would personally distribute it to the Goswamis, to the Brajavasis, to everyone. This was her nature. And there's that famous story where Gopinath appeared to her. She was at Gopinath's temple one day. And Gopinath, if you have been to Jaipur, you will see Gopinath's quite large size. I mean, Krishna, when he wants to be large, he could become Vishwarup, the universal form. But comparatively, Srimati Radharani was very small, not even at his waist hardly. So she's at the darshan in Vrindavan of Radha Gopinath temple. Madhu Pandit was there, serving her so nicely, and she was assisting him. And she was thinking in her mind, didn't say a word to anyone, that Radharani is too small for Gopinath. But then she was thinking, why am I thinking like this? If Radharani wants to be this size, who am I to say she's too small? So she didn't say anything. She was kind of feeling ashamed. And after the arati, she left. And Jiva Goswami arranged a place for her to rest. And while she was resting, Gopinath appeared in her dream and said, what you were thinking is correct. Radharani is too small for me. And then Gopinath said, Radharani, what is your opinion? And then Radharani appeared to Janavadevi and she said, yes, I am too small for Gopinath. So please go back to Bengal and make another deity of Radharani that is bigger size. So she was given an order. That means she had to leave Vrindavan. So she left. And oh, how she cried leaving all the Goswamis and leaving the holy land of Braj Bhumi, and how all the devotees were weeping and crying that she was leaving them. And she went to Kardaha, her home. Well, first on the way, she went to Ekachakra and so many other places. And she visited Lord Nityananda's birthplace and had wonderful experiences. And I'll tell one more story because the ringings have already been resounding. As she left Ekachakra, having these historical moments of visions of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, visions of Hadai Pandit and Padmavati, her mother-in-law and father-in-law who she never saw before, visions of Nityananda Prabhu's loving pastimes and being reunited with him. But she knew she had to make this deity for Gopinath, and she had to get back to Kardaha, which is where she resided on the bank of Ganga. So as she was leaving, just a few kilometers out of Ekachakra, she saw something really strange. There was a Brahmin who was totally drunk on liquor, not Harinam. I mean, fermented liquor. He was really drunk, and he was acting like a total fool. He was like a madman. He was just making all these crazy sounds, and he was dancing. She saw Lord Nityananda. He was always drunk on the holy name, and he was making strange sounds and dancing too, but this is totally different. This man was degraded. For a Brahmin to be in this condition was such a degradation, especially in those days. These days, nobody even knows hardly who a Brahmin is. You have to kind of see the men, see if when they're bathing whether they have threads or not. But the behavior of people is very difficult. But in those days, you could just by seeing the way a person behaved, you could understand if a person's actually a Brahmin. So this person was totally drunk and acting in such a humiliating, degrading way, and he didn't even know it. It was disgusting. That's the word. He was disgusting. So, most people, if they see somebody like that, they just become disgusted. But Janavadevi started to cry. She had so much compassion. Why does he have to be like this? And what she did when she saw him in that state, from the heart of her hearts, she prayed to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda Prabhu, please bestow your mercy upon this person. Help him, save him, bless him, shower your grace upon him. with tears of affection and compassion, she prayed so deeply for this man who was simply rude and disgusting. And this was exemplary. She didn't just think, I will deliver him. She prayed to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. When Srila Prabhupada was coming to America, we read in his prayers, he wasn't thinking, I will deliver these Malechas and Yavanas. He was praying, Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please, you deliver them. Give me your words to speak, to reach their hearts. Otherwise, there's no other way. This is the spirit of what we may call a preacher. Not that I'm better than you, that I'm just an instrument through my prayers of if Krishna, if Prabhupada choose to speak through me, only then can they be delivered. It's not about just what I know. It's about the sincerity in which I'm praying. That's when our knowledge is empowered with grace. So she prayed to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, please deliver this man. Where anybody else would have just seen him as a disgusting, fallen idiot, she was praying with compassion. And seeing this, then she told the devotees, go and tell him to chant the names of Krishna. And because of her prayers, his heart already had become receptive. And then he started chanting. And he became sober. And then he became intoxicated in a completely different way. And he became a great, great devotee. Instantly, practically. This was Janava Devi's nature. Her humility, her compassion. To be great, in a spiritual sense, means to feel great compassion, to serve those people who are very small. That's what makes you great. Not just to hang out with great people. If you're actually hanging out with great people, properly, hanging out is an American way of saying associating. It's the English translation of satsang. Yes? He's so patiently sitting. Thank you. If we actually are imbibing their spirit, then that is what greatness is. To feel, to care for people even in a lamentable situation. But to speak of devotees when they are attacked by Maya in a lamentable situation. It's easy to say they're disgusting, because literally they are. But what does that mean? If you go to Bhaktivedanta Hospital, if somebody comes in with some disgusting disease, Dwarkadish could say, you are disgusting. It's true. You're telling the truth. But he's not. But that disgust brings about a more urgent need to help, to serve, to care, to save a person from that disgusting situation. That was our qualification. When Prabhupada was asked, what was our qualification to get Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy and Krishna consciousness? He said, you had no qualification. I made your qualification. Because from someone in Vrindavan to come to Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco, is quite disgusting. But he saw, yes, these people are diseased. Let me give my life, my soul to heal them. That is the spirit of Janavadevi. To be the servant of the servant of the servant. Once again, my very, very dear beloved friend Shamdas Ji, who was a resident of Govardhan Hill. In fact, whenever I'm in Vrindavan, I usually spend time at his house. And the roof of his house, you could practically reach over and touch Govardhan. And it's right where Srinathji's temple is. On the top of Govardhan Hill. Just his home it's actually, we were speaking of Vitaleshwar. He lives in a room on the roof of the house that was once Vitaleshwar's house. The son of Ballabhacharya. It's right under Srinathji's original temple. And such a friend, such a servant of the servant of the servant in everything he did. He loved to serve devotees. He served his little Srinathji Murti for many hours every day. And he spread kirtan in a very special way throughout the Western world. So he has passed away from this world. Certainly his beloved Radharani and Srinathji have blessed him in a very, very special way, his immortal soul. But we are left behind to feel his separation. So let us pray for him. Pray for Srinathji. He was so happy to see Srinathji in our temple. And Srimati Radharani, Gopinath, Gaurnitai. They may bless his immortal soul with their infinite love. And in his honor we will perform Nam Sankirtan. Thank you very much.